try it on your phone. Get it, see if we've come up.
Just playing around with something.
Sorry, we're just having a look. Is it there?
Yep. It's delayed.
So if I've got, is this working? No, I'm upside down.
Yeah, don't do that.
Never mind. Right.
We're back.
We'll go from here. What's going on? All right, welcome to this week's Coffee and Coaches. It's a little bit cold.
I already drank my coffee.
You drank your coffee? You got to be more patient, man. All right. Anything to start?
No.
Okay, let's get in. Right. So I had a little rant on my stories the other day about a couple of
So rare for you.
things. I like to rant. You know, it's what I do, but I think it's going to be quite good to touch on this. So I just want to say how crazy it is, sort of people's biases towards things. And I understand we all have our biases. I certainly have mine, but I understand them at the same time that they are biases. So I was talking about sort of starvation mode, but before that, we need to just understand that unless you have like a metabolic condition, or unless you are extremely lean or extremely small or petite, or your goal is something and you're eating around 1,000 calories and not losing weight, you are not eating 1,000 calories. It's not happening. It's not, it's not a thing. Like, people think they are magically an anomaly to the fact. Like, there is hundreds of pieces of literature on this explaining that this isn't possible. Do you know what I mean? That the body, the metabolic rate, the BMR, with your energy like 1,000 calories is such a little amount of food. So there's so much literature on this, yet people still believe that they are different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just a little wild. And I get it, we want to give like empathy and compassion, and I get it, but you tell them that they're being inaccurate, or that because they are being inaccurate, right? If they're eating that, you are being inaccurate. And then it's like, they think you're calling them a liar, but that's not necessarily the case.
I think, probably the biggest thing I've ever noticed as a nutrition coach is everyone lies. Everyone lies, whether it's intentional or not. Like, and that's probably the big difference. Some people lie like on purpose because they feel like they're trying to avoid shame. Other people lie by pure just ignorance or through mistakes. Like, people will say, track 950 calories into MyFitnessPal, and it's like, no, I've only eaten this much. But then when you dive into it a little bit deeper, they probably haven't weighed and measured anything, or they've left out tons and tons of other things that may have been added to the food.
Yeah, and if they believe that they are eating that little and not, then I believe this is a positive. You've got nutritionists that look at the evidence around this, telling you that something's inaccurate. This could be a positive to go, oh, maybe I am being inaccurate. Maybe if I just tighten things up, things will start happening. There's adherence, and then there's non-adherence, but then there's unknowingly non-adherent. Like, it isn't all just conscious decisions. Like, it is subconscious a lot of the time, but it is a real thing. Did you ever see that video a few months ago that I posted about that woman who believed she was eating so little, so they put her in a lab and then give her double labeled water for a week or 2 weeks? And she went back after writing everything down that she had eaten. So double labeled water measures the amount of calories that you eat and the energy. So then she went back to the doctors after writing everything. On average, she had ate 1,200 to 1,400 calories per day, what she had wrote down on paper. But through the double labeled water, after knowing that she hasn't got any metabolic problems, I think she was at something like 3,000 a day.
Yeah, it's quite like, again, without going too far into things, like on average, men underestimate their calorie intake by 500 calories per day, and women it's up to 1,000.
Yeah.
And that's a lot.
Yeah, 500 to 1,000 calories difference. And again, it's not necessarily saying you're a liar, but it's just not true. And then this sort of brings you on to, starvation mode. Like, how many people believing that they're eating so little that their body is keeping hold of fat. When you think about the concept and the logical thing for this, it's bloody ludicrous.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and I think in your rant the other day, you mentioned like starvation mode only seems to be a problem in, first world countries.
How lucky.
How lucky.
Do you know what I mean? Because like I said, in Africa, You know,
The
they're going.
obesity crisis
That's
is
it.
fucking kicking off.
Or when they're like, dad comes home and is like, haven't earned any money today, I'm sorry, we can't eat. And then you're just like, it's fine. It's fine. We don't need to eat because we have starvation mode, which will keep this body fat on me. So we don't actually need to eat, and I could just keep my fat. Like that's...
But conversely, I understand why people sort of cling to that idea, because some people think like they're doing everything right, or they're being told by a coach or someone they trust that you know, they don't want the coach doesn't want to think the client the coach doesn't want the client to feel like they're not achieving the right things.
Yeah.
So he'll lie to the client, be like, oh, don't worry, you know, you're on the right track, your body's just in starvation mode. And the client's like, oh, that must be it.
Yeah, I think Paul, you are right. And it's the same we said on that podcast where it's like, you do say stuff when you're probably less educated to make yourself client feel better. You know, like last week, it's like they lost no weight and they come back, it's like, oh, you probably built muscle and lost fat, and that's why you've stayed the exact same weight and the exact same body composition. It's like, it's not necessarily true. So starvation mode, how we perceive it, isn't a thing, but starvation, is actually a very real thing. Like, people starve to death because they have no energy, and then once all their body fat is gone, it will start eating away at their muscle and their organs, and then they will eventually die.
So when you get to 3 or 4 o'clock and you think you're starving, you're not.
Peckish,
You're
man.
a little bit peckish.
Again, playing around with your food. So a couple of things that sort of blow starvation mode out of the water, that the things that stand out the most is sort of the Mr. AB. So this was like in the 1960s. I think he was like 208 kilos. He didn't eat for like 365 days and ended up at 82 kilos. So his body definitely didn't keep hold of any fat, which was pretty amazing. And then the Minnesota starvation study, where these men, was it 1,500 calories?
Yeah.
Men were given 1,500 calories per day, which to some people it's like 1,500 calories. That's a lot of food. I ate around 1,500 calories. These people, you could see it week after were starving, to the point in the research where they were struggling to walk down a curb because their energy was so little. So they would find paths in the curb to walk down and walk out. And if you look at the pictures, it's unreal. Do you know what I mean? Like, we need an amount of food to live. Like, I'm a fairly small human and I need around 2,700, 2,800 to maintain my weight.
Yeah. They don't do these studies anymore, by the way, because they
Just starve people.
Yeah.
But again, if you're coming into, then people are like, oh, maybe I've adapted to the amount of food that I've eaten. So metabolic adaptation, or adaptive thermogenesis, whatever you want to call it, is a thing, but only if you actually lose the weight in the first place. So many people think like, oh, I've been eating at 1,200 for so long, they've not lost any weight, I must have adapted. No, it only works if you've actually lost the weight and the body fat in the first place, because your body doesn't need to try as hard to keep you alive anymore. So if you're eating 1,200 calories, for example, and your maintenance is 1,700 calories and you're not losing any weight, you're not eating 1,200 calories. You're eating at 1,700 calories.
Yeah.
Like, so there is metabolic adaptation. It's definitely a real thing, but only if you're there.
Yeah, and it doesn't occur as quickly as people think.
No, it's usually a reduction in non-exercise
Yeah.
activity too, right?
Yeah.
So there's the
That's a big thing, especially for females. When you drastically reduce someone's calorie intake and they're losing, we've got to remember our body doesn't want to be in a deficit. It loves a level of homeostasis or normality. So your body's going to find other ways for it to conserve energy, and that's when people who are on these aggressive calorie restricted diets will note like lack of motivation to move more. They, like, even from facial expression standpoint, they won't blink as much. Your body will just find little ways to save energy. So you can be eating the same amount that was losing you kilo after kilo after kilo, but then your body is like, nah, we need to save some energy.
Yeah, that's a good fact. So that reduction in exercise activity plus a reduction in non-exercise activity, which a lot of non-exercise activity is subconscious. So you might still be hitting your steps per day, but realistically, we're not looking at a step count. We're looking at an expenditure count. Steps is just a good way to measure it. So that is a good point on the subconscious.
Anything else?
That's all I've got, but I think we've just hopefully put some in. Anything else from your week?
My week? American Pie. Watched American Pie 2 on the weekend. Sunday when I was feeling a little bit dusty. Still a great movie.
Is that it?
Great movie.
Is that what you wanted
Highly
to say?
recommend. Well, I don't have Netflix anymore. Or Amazon Prime. I got nothing.
What'd you do?
But Optus TV. It was just there. I was like, boom, American Pie.
Why'd you watch the second one, not the first one?
I felt like I've seen the first one too many times.
Fine. You did that, didn't you, when you were a kid?
What?
The American Pie?
Yeah, experiment.
All right, perfect. That is enough. But hopefully you've got something. If you have any questions, I know we've been fairly aggressive about the situation maybe today, but I think people need to get the point across. And as soon as you understand this or say, hey, maybe this is the truth, maybe I have got biases towards it, then again, it'll be a lot
better off.
Yeah, education is the key. So any questions, let us know. But until then, peace.